I'd just like to say to the members of the Westminster City Council Scrutiny Committee and all the councillors here that we do indeed thank you for this opportunity to present a reasoned opposition to this charge, and I would agree with Chairwoman Harvey when she says that what a contrast to the last time we were here. On September the 3rd, 6 of us who've never met attended this meeting. I was particularly struck by the marked difference between the attitude of you, Madam Chairman, who expressed concern that anybody was here, as opposed to Messrs Chalkley and Gilchrist, who exchanged what appeared to be smug, self-satisfied glances at each other on the basis that there were so few of us. Well, Madam Chairman, you only need to look outside. At a time when world leaders are discussing ways to lighten the burden now placed on so many by the credit crunch, us 6 have returned with nigh on 1,000 times the number who appeared here 6 months ago. We've come here to rebuke the charge that Mr Chalkley would now attempt to see through so he could heap more misery on the same people the world leaders are trying to assist. Unless you think that it's a local biker issue, we are supported here today with car drivers in the form of the Drivers Alliance and the Association of British Drivers. We're represented by residents, we're represented by traders and ordinary taxpayers, and let's not try and kid ourselves. These people are neither the rogues that they are trying to present us to the press, but neither are they here to politely ask you if you'd be ever so kind as to scrap this. They're here to tell you in no uncertain terms that Mr Chalkley's attempt to bring in a stealth tax via the back door has been rumbled, and the people, your electorate, are not prepared to allow this to continue. I'd like to now call on the first of our speakers, Dr Leon Manning, a transport consultant and an eminent committee member, who will present the overview of what our committee and what our issues are.
I know that, Mr Jonogly, you're a Westminster resident. You're not a Westminster resident. Is Mr Leon Manning's a Westminster resident? He's not. Okay, this is for information for this committee. Thank you. Okay, if you'd identify yourself as such when you come to speak.
Yeah. Is that going to work now?
We hope so. It should work now.
Okay. Can you pull it through, Chris? Hi. I will attempt to be brief. Westminster City Councillors have been critically misled into sanctioning a trial scheme which has already proved to be based on false assumptions and assertions. The scheme has no demonstrable sustainable transport benefits and is therefore an abuse of the powers it has used under Traffic Act legislation. It is now clear that councillors, including the scheme's promoters, had no idea that charging for motorcycle parking on all public highways in a Transport Authority area is unprecedented anywhere in the developed world, or that this is for the simple reason that it is an utterly counterproductive measure in environmental terms and in the crucial context of reducing congestion on roads and overcrowded public transport commuter services. Recent admissions by key protagonists and changes in arguments for the scheme also reveal that residents and stakeholders were grossly misled as to the true primary purpose of the new charges. The main reason for imposing this new tax is revenue raising and not the delivery of significant benefits to motorcyclists and other road users as originally but misleadingly claimed. No effort has been made to investigate how all neighbouring European cities address motorcycle parking and ensure that they have none of the issues that Westminster officials claim are problems that are best solved by a new parking tax. There are 3 key issues which should now be the focus for immediate and diligent scrutiny. How and why has the Council allowed its elected members to sanction the trial of an unprecedented new tax on motorcycling on the basis of such woefully inadequate background information and unsustainable arguments. Secondly, what can and should the Council do to ensure that the due diligence and presentation of facts needed to properly inform their decision-making processes are significantly improved? Thirdly, what can and should be done to ensure that the Council begins an honest dialogue about the future of this trial with stakeholders and the public of Westminster, whose views it has a duty to respect? Lastly, I suggest that if you as a committee decide to scrutinise nothing else, you should have a serious investigation into why the Council has published a stream of woefully miscalculated figures in relation to the costs and incomes from this ill-conceived tax scheme, and continues to publish sums that simply do not add up. And there, I think I will leave what I suggest is subject matter for scrutiny. Thank you.
Thank you. You started your case at 7:10. It's now 17 minutes, so you have, according to my calculation, another 8 minutes, because we have to have time to have our discussions here as well.
Properly presented now, Madam Chairman, would you?
We gave you 15 minutes, and I'm just helping you by letting you know how the time is passing.
We will now hand out the background papers to this, if you'd like to pass this amongst you, as I hand you over to Chris Hodder, who is the BMF representative, also a committee member, who will rebut this latest report being submitted to you to try and push this through.
No, I'm a resident of Southwark. Ladies and gentlemen, as my colleagues have no doubt made clear, and will continue to make clear, the British Motorcyclists Federation have been opposed to this scheme from the start, despite the spin and manipulation certain people have tried to put onto this. Just to make this clear, we will never support any provision so obviously designed to exploit riders and discourage motorcycle use. I would like to draw your attention to the fact that this scheme has, in our considered opinion, been implemented illegally. The process, an experimental traffic order, has been used cynically and illegally to circumvent protest and dissent, and failed, obviously. I will now cite some of the many reasons. Firstly, the enabling law, the Road Traffic Regulation Act 1984, specifically says the traffic authority for a road may, for the purposes of carrying out an experimental scheme of traffic control, make an order this section, referred to in this act as an experimental traffic order. As far as we can tell, there is no experimental aspect to this scheme other than whether you can get away with it or not. In the case of UK Waste Management Limited versus West Lancashire District Council 1997, the judge found it was unlawful to introduce an experimental traffic order where there was no proper experiment. Secondly, the regulations which govern the introduction of all traffic orders, the Local Authority Traffic Orders Procedures Regulations 1996, specifically states that certain documents should be deposited for public inspection at the Council's principal office and at such other places it deems necessary. When my colleague and I arrived at this very building on the 17th of February, no documents were available, and after an hour and a half of inquiries, we were directed to private offices at West 1. I think you will agree that private offices cannot be and should not be public places, nor principal offices of a local authority.